welcome everyone to the People's House.
Mr. Speaker, will you please call the House to order?
The bill is passed.
We want to make sure that we make New York a more affordable place to live, a better place to raise a family. Welcome to Assembly Update. I am Assembly Member Angelo Santa Barbara, representing the 111th Assembly District, which includes Montgomery County, parts of Albany County, and parts of Schenectady County. Today, we are going to be talking about ASPCA and our guest, Bill Ketzer, who is the Northeastern Legislative Director and Government Relations for that organization. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And this is an interesting topic for my district. A lot of things surround the work that the ASPCA does. But let's start with we throw out that acronym. What does that stand for the audience at home?
Certainly, American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. We are certainly the nation's first animal welfare organization, incorporated in 1866. We took that model from the United Kingdom, the RSPCA, or the ASPCA. Our founder worked for Abraham Lincoln and came back from his travels. He was a consulate to Russia, came back to America after he was done doing that, and he started the ASPCA, and it began with animal advocacy in relation primarily to work animals, horses primarily. Yeah. And here we are, first full circle, talking about that in New York City right now. But primarily, over time, we've evolved into a full-service animal welfare organization. So we do, I do government relations. That's my role. But we have a number of what I guess I'll call direct care programs that I'll go out on a limb and say that we do it better than pretty much any other organization in our field in terms of direct care.
And when you think of the ASPCA, first thing that comes to mind is dogs.
Yes.
But you cover much more than that. As you said, there's
sure.
A lot of animals that are part of this.
Yep.
What are some of the, well, first of all, if you had to define a mission, what would that mission be?
Well, I always, whenever I testify at hearings, I always make sure that I say that we are incorporated as a 501c3, and we are an animal welfare and protection organization. And so, while a lot of our direct care and service programs and services are related to companion animals, dogs and cats, we, especially at the government relations level, we do get involved in wildlife policy. We do get involved in farm animal policy to the extent it's practicable in a given state. And but a good chunk of our direct care programs are related to companion animals because that's kind of how we've evolved over the decades.
And you mentioned a few different areas as far as challenges and some of the work that's being done in the communities. What are some of the things that are affecting our residents that they may need to contact the ASPCA?
Well, right now, I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. Over the past 10 years, certainly, but it's been happening for longer than that. The backyard breeding phenomenon has become very lucrative for people, and what has started to happen, well, they realize they can make a nice chunk of change from just breeding animals. They're not regulated in the same way as farm animals are, nor should they be. And up until very recently, a local government had no ability to do anything at all. The state law expressly prohibited them from regulating pet stores, backyard breeders, the wholesale breeding industry in any way, shape, or form. That just changed on January 10th, where the governor signed into law legislation to finally repeal that provision, and so local governments are able to go above and beyond that state law.
And that's something that's going to, help you do your job and help people take care of those types of issues when they happen at a local level.
I think, yeah, I'm confident that that's the case because we've always received inquiries from local governments asking, what can we do given, well, this is prior to the passage of the law, but given the fact that prohibition was in place, the question was, well, what else can we do? And the answer is, well, geez, that's a pretty obvious prohibition that's in the law. It just says local government shall not,
Right.
And I think that they will take full advantage of that where it makes sense. It's not a mandate. Local governments will weigh whether or not they have an issue, whether they want, whether it fits the character of their communities to be able to get involved in this stuff. and our legal advocacy department is available to assist communities if they're interested. We always, I don't know that we'll create model legislation just because, the town of Amherst out in Buffalo is a lot different than Westchester County,
Right.
And they have different needs and they'll want to regulate differently. So we'll make ourselves available. We'll probably create some guidelines, and we'll get out into the communities.
And that's a good point, that different parts of the state have different needs at a local level.
Absolutely, sure.
So you mentioned the breeding the breeding issues. What are some of the other issues that you deal with?
In New York right now, there's a bunch of emerging issues. I mean, New York has evolved in terms of animal welfare policy in a very interesting fashion. We have most states are set up with an animal control officer infrastructure, which is to say they're primarily police department officials trained as animal control officers. Not so in New York State. They're simply dog control officers, and they are kind of loosely, they're not certified at all, but they're regulated in a small respect by the Department of Agriculture and Markets. There's probably about 450 of them statewide, and they don't have any training. The Department of Agriculture kind of gives them a pamphlet and will provide some guidance if they call, but otherwise they're kind of out there on their own. Yeah. But they're the ones who are out there. They're the first responders when a dog is outside in the freezing cold. They're the first responders when there's a dog running loose in the neighborhood. And there's a lot of potential to inadvertently, for an officer to inadvertently put him or herself in a position where they're actually being counterproductive or actually causing a problem accidentally rather than solving one. So the need for training is huge. We hope to do a lot of good work with the New York State Animal Protective Foundation, which was recently incorporated in our area, actually. Brad Shear from the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society in Menands is the president of that organization. And hope to build out some type of statewide program, perhaps in partnership with a public entity to go do that. Yeah. So that's something that's significant. It has come to light a couple times in Schenectady County, Albany County. There's just a strong need for it. But of course, just like a lot of other things, it costs money. Yeah. It takes time, and it's an investment at the local level. So again, it's like how to do that in an effective way, and how to forge the right partnerships.
Yeah, you talked about in the wintertime, and obviously we're in the Northeast. You talk about weather affecting animals. What are some of the other common problems, or some of the other things that you've dealt with in the past that people may relate to?
Wow, there's a ton. Thinking in like previous years legislatively, this won't surprise some people, but I in conversations out and about, out in the field, people don't realize we still have a significant animal fighting. I'll call it an epidemic. People are still heavily involved in that, and it has a lot of ties into the drug trade and other types of illicit activity. And it's not really specific to a given type of community. It happens in the inner city, it happens in suburbia, it happens in rural areas, and it happens a lot more frequently than people think that it does. And so we worked last year, the governor signed a bill into law to outlaw the actual possession of fighting implements. It's now a Class D misdemeanor, whereas you couldn't prosecute for the possession of that. We are always looking at ways to improve that law and the cruelty law in general, because it's an old law, and it was put on the books probably about just after we were incorporated in 1866, and so it's a living, breathing thing, and we always try to see, we're very vigilant about how that law really plays out in real life.
And you cover obviously the state.
I do.
Of New York, and
I do.
If people want to get a hold or learn more about ASPCA, your website aspca.org, or they can reach you by phone as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know they're going to put that information up, and you also have a Facebook and a Twitter that people can follow you.
Oh, we have five
okay.
Facebook sites, and I'm sure numerous Twitter accounts. Yeah, I think every department of our organization has a separate Twitter.
In the era of social media, people can stay up to date on what's going on with ASPCA as well as other organizations as well. You have quite a few programs that we've listed here. We're going to talk about a few of those. You know, you have. Let's start with you have field investigations and response.
Very important.
Let's talk a little bit about that. How does that work?
Okay, the FIR. They call it the FIR. That's the acronym. Field investigation response is a fairly new function, and when I say fairly new, I mean within the past like 5 or 6 years of a centuries-old organization. But it is a first responder type of situation where we go into communities. They are the ones who we do a lot of heavy work with upon request from large municipal governments or other not-for-profits who are involved in high-level investigations, dogfighting rings, RICO type of things. We have had 3 multi-state dogfighting ring busts this year, not in this area, but down south and out in the Midwest, that resulted in numerous convictions. And these are substantial dogfighting rings. Field investigation response goes in, sets up temporary sheltering. Our forensics team goes in and basically provides care for that. We have a veterinary team that's a part of that. We have several medical directors who go in as a part of that team. And we also, I think, most importantly in this day and age, because we seem to have a pretty significant hurricane every year now, they go in, they're first responders, search and rescue for animals, and we work closely with other local responders, because what we found is that a lot of people just simply won't leave their animals in a disaster, and that causes a problem not just for the animal, but for a family who won't leave, and then also for the responders trying to get those families out of that situation. So it's good work. We never see them because they're always out. They're always on the road.
Yeah, busy. Yep.
But I think I consider it a very important function of the organization.
And along those lines, the next item here I had is forensic services, which I think relates to that as well.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, there's a tie there, but there's also a pretty significant tie just to assisting with the investigation of animal cruelty in general. Yep. We also provide, again, upon request, we provide forensics training to veterinary associations, because what happens is veterinarians are very much really set up like small businesses. And so when you have a big disaster or you have a massive dogfighting ring bust, it's very difficult to try to get local veterinarians to kind of respond with you for like a kind of unspecified amount of time, because they're a small business. They can't just be away from their business. And so it's important that we encourage local governments to identify a couple of veterinary practices within their community to be trained and to be able to do that type of work, because a lot of cruelty investigations happen at the local level. We can't be everywhere at once. So the important role that they play is getting those veterinarians trained at the local level, so when local law enforcement, the local DA, investigates a case of cruelty, like Albany County DA Soares has been involved in recently, we provide the training and the guidance for it's very important how you document animal abuse in terms of getting a successful prosecution. And so that's the goal of that program, really.
Very important program, yes. Well, we're going to take a short break, but I want to thank you for being here and for the work that you're doing across New York State to protect our animals. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, more about ASPCA. Stay with us.
All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry. I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you. Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Look at me. Hey. Raymond, look at mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Live with a human for a while and you get to know a few things. Like, I know she's actually not a morning person. I know she does strange tricks for no treats. I know that water makes her howl like crazy. I even know how the floor stays so clean. She's quick. But the one thing I will never for the life of me know is how she gets so tiny and inside that box. Natalie, how do you get so tiny?
Welcome back to Assembly Update. I am Assembly Member Angelo Santa Barbara. My district office in Amsterdam, 1170 Riverfront Center, Amsterdam, New York, 12010. Number there, 518-843-0227. In the city of Schenectady, my district office is at 433 State Street, Schenectady, New York, 12305. Phone number there, 518-382-2941. And as always, by email at santabarbara@assembly.state.ny.us. You can also find me on Facebook under Angelo Santa Barbara, or follow me on Twitter under ASM Santa Barbara, and on Instagram under Assemblyman Santa Barbara. So we talked about all the social media.
Instagram, very nice.
Everybody seems to have one these days. We have